Hello, my fellow YouTubers. This is Roy back again. It's a rainy Monday. Got the day off. Figure I'd come in here and dive deeper into a little bit on the Tesla coil here. The Slayer hookup, if you want to call it. A couple things I want to show you. I really dove into this just recently. Not just recently, I mean like this morning. And I don't mean like dove into this, meaning like I just learned about it. But I wanted to rethink of what I know. And pretty interesting stuff here because you're coming out of the transistor, which is the collector, and you're going into one side of the primary. The other side of the primary goes straight to the positive side. So that means your negative side's chasing the positive. So I'm feeding the breadboard. You got a negative and the positive. The bottom pin down here is the, when you look at the transistor, you'll see that these two pins are higher. If you turn it this way, you'll see they're lower. So you always put them where they're up. The right side will be your emitter. The left side will be your base, which is your signal in. And your emitter is pulling in your negative, which goes into the collector outside casing, which goes into your primary. So it's just a switch, basically. I have to put a resistor in here, so I'm using a 1 ohm, 10 watt, coming off the base, going into the bottom part of the secondary. So that is the switching device, the tickler, the feedback. So interesting stuff here. So what I got here is 2 regular light bulb screw-ins, and I got them connected to the fat wire on this side. So this side here is almost a split image of that. That's got a big top load. We'll go into what that top load represents. Over here is just a pickup, not connected to anything. So in order to receive this energy that's coming out, we put a primary back on. Instead of going into the primary with power, like we're doing here, we're reversing it. So it's a mirror image. So we're absorbing with all that conductor wire, we're absorbing the energy, and then we're coming out and slowing it down into this wider, thicker wire. And then we're coming out of that, and I'm just feeding these two. So let's go ahead and fire this up. I'll turn it on. And we're at 23.6 volts, no amps. That means it's not switching. Funny thing is, look, all I gotta do is say if I touch the top load, you should see that have amperage all of a sudden. All right, lights go on. So I just activated the transistor to switch. So it's switching right now. And it's switching about 1100 and change kilohertz, give or take. I don't have any sensors in here, but I'm just basing it on the frequency of this wire. So what you have is this switching device is switching on and off based on the voltage drop that is happening at the bottom of this secondary. So the bottom of the secondary is switching the switch there. So it is in resonance. Well, it is the tail end of the secondary, so it knows its length of wire that it's traveling. Bam, ba-boom, ba-bam, ba-boom. So it's switching according to the length of the wire is what I'm getting at. So your frequencies will be matched, not matched, but the frequency set in between, yeah, I guess matched between this switching and how long it will switch is based on the length of the wire. So let's go ahead and let's, I guess we can leave that there, no big deal. Let me see, if we undo one of these wires, nothing happens, right? But I'll put the wire back because when we screw in the light bulbs, we're gonna see. So I can hold the bulb up, the bulb lights up, hold the bulb down, it goes out. So it has a small, you know, the top load pretty much dictates how far out. It's still on a little bit right there. There's signal out here, but it ain't lighting that light bulb up past there. So I said, well, let me see if I can get it to screw in. And here I go, screw it in. And it shouldn't light, but it does. It does light. And that's coming from that. Now, I can feel the burn on my finger over here. You can see the electric. That's a burn. That's the fast rate of change going on because of that transistor burning me. Unlike Tesla's rate of change is, this is a capacitance change because there's a capacitance built up in here, but it seems to be, it burns you versus not. So I put my hand near it, it goes on, grab this other bulb, but you can see how far out before it stops. Now, I just got zanged by that one. All right, so let's go back over here. And this, when I bring it close, all of a sudden now it just goes on. I'm just going near it. Let's go ahead and screw it in. All right, so we got both of these lights on. Obviously the tall light has no, you can even look at, there's your current. Just seeing how my hand is reacting. So you can see like the top load has everything to do with, look, I didn't even touch it. I just went near it. It's that sensitive. I think it burned out the transistor. That sensitive. And you'll find yourself when you're messing with these, there's a lot of info in here that I'm about ready to lay on you because it has everything to do with the bouncy bally of that top load and that power going in on that prime mover over there. So new transistor. Let's get this thing fired up. I want to talk about what I notice about the top load and the amperage draw on the system running. How do you increase it or decrease it? All right, there we go. So we just snap another one back in, connect the collector. Lights are back on. And we're running. We're pulling 0.8485. And you can see my hair starts to stand up when I get in there. It's the capacitance. You can see how the bigger capacitor you put up there, the more responsive it is. And let's also check this one. So I'm gonna come over here to this, and you can see how, watch the amp side. All right. Our body's seem to suck in a lot of this energy. So over here, I got the wire. It's got insulation on it. Now watch my finger. See that blue? Guys are still on. Screw it in. So pretty interesting stuff. Hope you guys enjoy this stuff. Let's go a little deeper in here. So I took a capacitor, and you can pull the capacitor out. You see there was a jump over there in amperage, and then these lights are still on. Now if you take the capacitor, let's say we dead short it. Not doing anything on a dead short, but it does have some heat. So I look around this circuit here and I say, well, where can I add capacitance? I already know that I need resistance on the base side to get this thing switching. And where would I add capacitance? So I tried a few places. So if you come off, if you leave the connection for the emitter, and say if we come off the emitter side and the negative, so we hook the negative to the negative side, and we come all the way over and hook up the can't do it while I've got one there. Ah, there we go. So I could come over here. I'm going to hook up the positive on the emitter side and bring over the, all right, everything's still running. Okay, lights are still on. We're pulling 0.90 amps, 23.6 volts. We can take this capacitor here, and we're going to stick it into the negative side. All right, so now we're got capacitance in between where it comes out. This is a draw right there. So I can tell you that this negative that feeds the emitter is pulling in, and it's getting sucked out of the collector, and I can feel heat right now, so we might see some action, but the energy of the negative side chasing the positive is going through this way into there, out the collector, and then out the collector, running around and going to one side of the primary. Now let's go ahead and we're gonna see what happens when you step it up a little bit in voltage. So right now we're at 1.8 amps, 32 volts. Lights are on bright, and we should see a breakdown in this part of the circuit. It should be breaking down soon, or maybe because I moved the capacitor over, maybe it won't break down. So at 32 volts, this thing should, well, it just shut off. So let's go down from 32 volts, we'll bring it to like 12. And what we're gonna notice is that I believe that guy is gone. Let's go back to one that was gone and put it in, see if it came back to life, because sometimes it's just the heat that screws them up. Nope, that one's shot. There's no amperage coming through. So we can move on to another one. So this is what we do for experiments, because listen, how would you know about this circuit? I mean, in detail, what area of this circuit, in regards to the transistor, do you need to know? I mean, you can look on an oscilloscope and look at wave, but I wouldn't put my oscilloscope near this sucker. Not my beautiful baby. Not that one. She's a good old one. Bought it on eBay used. Used to be in a technical school. So it couldn't have been too abused, or was abused. Who knows how you can look at it. All right, so we're plugging in a new one. Let's go ahead and connect the the collector. Lights are back on. We're down in voltage, so we're struggling a little bit down here. My hand needs to be near them. You can see just bringing my hand near them, not touching. Light comes on, not touching. So that's interesting in itself. We step it up in voltage a little bit and come up like around 20. I can already tell you they're on bright, everything's good. Back over here, we still got the, so we have that capacitor over here, and we'll have no breakdown over here. So let's pull the capacitor out. So this is going to show one thing. The brightness went down a little bit. So the capacitor in that area there was balancing out or doing some good stuff. Let's go ahead and maybe we'll close it. Let's see if we got a spark. Nope. So now we're going to go ahead and let's just say we put the capacitor back into the circuitry itself. So we're coming out and going into the breadboard with the positive and negative. So we're going to go back into just plugging this positive and negative. So we're going to add that back in the circuitry. So coming in, it's got a capacitor, which basically probably not doing much, but it's in there. So let's go ahead now and step it up, and we're going to see if that wire is compromised. So we'll step 32 volts. Got some lights going here. Pulling 1.4, 1.5 amps, 1.5, 1.6 amps. So we'll start to see a breakdown somewhere. As that amps goes up, there's a breakdown going on somewhere in there. I think it's in the transistor itself. See, I'm touching. Well, we seem to be holding up pretty good. Let's take the capacitor out now, which is very hot. And we're climbing up in the 160s. Interesting. No breakdown. She held up pretty good. Well, as experiments always go, you keep doing them over and over and look for changes. And you only change one thing at a time, guys. One thing at a time. Pretty interesting stuff. All right, so we were just dealing with where you can add a capacitor. So it seems like everything I did there didn't alter anything. But the capacitor, like a Tesla coil, true Tesla coil, as a transformer, then in the capacitors, and there's your charging, and then from the capacitors releasing into a coil. So if you want to look at this, the coil release is coming from the positive on one side and the negative is coming from a controlled side, which is this piece right here on the casing. Okay, so that is your controller side, and it's being activated based on the base part of this transistor, which is going through a resistor to calm down what we're making over here, because with the primary flashing on and off, the secondary is getting the inductive part. The positive side is running up, the negative side is running down. Excuse me, is running down, and it's just as powerful as what's going up here. So you're have to calm that down, and that's what this resistor is doing. It's doing a great job, really good. It's not even warm. Now the transistor's doing good. Usually when you run these, you would have to have some type of heat resistor or some type of heat sink, and you would put something else on top of this and you would let it absorb the heat. But so far, by using this resistor here, that's upside down, but it's it says 10 watts, 1 ohm. Holding up good, pulling one steady amp. You can see we're running these 3 light bulbs pretty good. These are staying on without even me touching. So that's pretty interesting in itself. And they're running off of, these two are, this is running off of nothing. This is just freaking out there on its own. Just hovering around and collecting. But this is filled with a gas that's made to do that, which is kind of cool. And the other two, I'd have to have in my hand to light up. They won't light up on their own. But here, my hand's not involved. I got them lit up. I got them being fed by the 2 parts of the primary. And I can come in here and I can take this off, turn them lights off. Then I come back and put it back on. So you can see that that's feeding that. How far that can go out, probably a foot more. And, you know, that to me, I'm still trying to really dig into the part of what the infield and the outer field represents, because I'm dealing right now with, I believe I'm dealing with the inner field, because I'm close in proximity here. Now, if I take this apart, right, take that apart, and right now it's totally disconnected, and I bring it over here, okay, get rid of the top one, and then I just see that there was the light's still on over here, it's still moving along good. And if I were to, let me put you on a stand, you're gonna like this one. This is pretty cool too. I just want 2 hands for a second. So I'm gonna make this better than it was, because it just fell apart. Make sure the wrap's good enough. And this time, oh, I burned out my potentiometer. Damn it. I knew I shouldn't have done that. This time we're gonna hook up earth ground. And earth ground is right there, okay? And we're gonna hook that up to the bottom of the secondary. So let's say that's your top wire. Where's your bottom wire here? Hiding somewhere. There it is. So you get this wire, and now what we're going to do is we're going to put an air capacitor to it, and we're going to control the energy, and this is the outer field, and I got to give kudos out to my subscribers who are leaving great comments. I love that you guys have some good knowledge. All right, so we're gonna go ahead this time and let me grab an LED. Grab, all right, so we're gonna have a LED, and so right now we're not getting anything. Did you see that? So right now we got that bottom hook to ground. Okay, and we're across the table now. And you can see that